A father goes camping with his young son in Grand Teton National Park for the first time. But when the boy starts talking to someone he's never met, someone who died before he was born, the past feels closer than expected. This is Odd National Park, where the natural meets the supernatural. Odd National Park features your true paranormal stories about strange, unexplained experiences in national parks and beyond. You can help keep the campfire burning and the otherworldly outdoor stories coming by visiting the support page at oddnationalpark.com. Thank you. Tonight's story comes from Gary, a father who brought his son to the Tetons to begin something new, a shared tradition, a fresh chapter. But the moment they arrived, he sensed something familiar, something old. This is the kind of story that makes you wonder whether family ever really leaves us, or whether, in certain places, they're just a whisper away. Grand Teton National Park rises out of the Wyoming landscape like a jagged memory, sharp, beautiful, and impossible to ignore. The mountains here don't roll or gently swell. They cut. They pierce the sky and command your attention. It's one of the most photographed places in the country, but when you're out there, off the grid, beneath those peaks, it doesn't feel like something you're supposed to look at. It feels like something looking back. For centuries, indigenous tribes like the Shoshone and Bannock have held the Tetons as sacred, places of spiritual power, where the boundary between this world and the next isn't so fixed. Some say the mountains are alive. Others say they remember. Hikers talk about the quiet in these mountains, how it's not just the absence of sound, but the presence of something else. A stillness that watches, that listens. And sometimes that stillness answers. This is Gary's story about the moment the quiet spoke back. Hey James, last summer I took my son, he's 8, on his first real camping trip, just the two of us. We went to Death Canyon Shelf in Grand Teton National Park. I'd only been there once before when I was around the same age, with my dad. He's gone now, passed away a few years back. I wouldn't say we had some long-standing family tradition or anything. That trip with my dad wasn't something we did regularly, but it stuck with me. And when my son started getting old enough to appreciate this kind of thing, being out there, unplugged and off-screen, looking up at the stars, I knew I wanted to take him. I wanted to start something. Death Canyon Shelf is off the beaten path, but still legal to camp. Real quiet. Mountains on all sides. One of those places where it gets dark fast and the silence feels like it's pressing in. I remember thinking that first night, this is exactly what I wanted. Just the two of us, a clean slate. But looking back, I think someone else might have shown up too. My son's always been a little different. I don't mean in a bad way. He's sharp, super observant, and kind of tuned in, I guess. Ever since he was really little, he's said things that stopped me in my tracks. When he was 4, he told me he dreamt about the man who lives in the trees at my childhood home. Someone I hadn't thought about in decades. And there was no way he could have known about that. He'll walk into a place and go quiet, and later tell me it felt crowded, even when no one else was there. He once asked my wife if she ever missed her mom's lullabies. Thing is, she never talked to him about her mom. She died before he was born. So yeah, he's always had this sensitivity. We don't really talk about it in supernatural terms at home, but I've learned not to brush it off either. And when we got to the Tetons, it was like something in him clicked on, like a light switch. He was more still, more tuned in, like he knew the place already, or the place knew him. That first night was quiet, almost too quiet. No wind, no bugs, no distant rustling. Just that deep canyon silence that feels like it's waiting for something. We had a little fire going, and I was showing my son how to roast a marshmallow without turning it into charcoal. He looked up at me mid-toast and said, completely casually, "Grandpa says yours are still better." I kind of laughed at first, like, okay, funny thing for him to say. But then I stopped, because it wasn't just the words, it was the tone, like he was passing along a message. Later, when we were getting into the tent for the night, he told me Grandpa came by. I asked what he meant, and he just shrugged and said, he was standing by the edge. He didn't say much. He just smiled. Again, calm, not scared, like it was completely normal. At some point, he started humming this tune I hadn't heard in years. It was this old fishing song my dad used to hum without realizing it. Just this soft, tuneless melody. My son wouldn't know it. He couldn't know it. I didn't sleep much that night, not because I was afraid, but because I kept listening, half expecting to hear something or someone, but there was only the silence. And it felt full, like we weren't alone, but in the best possible way. The next morning, we were packing up to head down the trail when my son said something that stopped me cold. He looked up at me, totally casual, and said, "Grandpa said you don't have to feel bad about the lure. He knows it wasn't your fault." I just stared at him. I hadn't thought about that in years. When I was a kid, maybe 8 or 9, about the same age as my son is now, my dad and I were fishing together. He had this handmade lure he really loved, one of a kind, and I lost it. I didn't mean to, but it got snagged and broke off in the rocks. He didn't yell, but I could tell he was upset. We never talked about it after that. It just kind of sat there, quiet and unfinished. And now here's my son standing in the Tetons quoting a man he's never met about something I've never told him. I asked him how he knew about the lure, and he just shrugged again like it was obvious. "Grandpa told me. He said you were a kid, that you were just learning, and that you did your best." I didn't know what to say. Anyway, I'm not exactly sure what happened out there, but I know how it felt, like that silence, the kind that had been hanging around me for years, finally let go. I know my son wasn't making things up. He was just passing something on. That trip started as a way to build something new with my kid. I didn't expect it to reconnect me with my dad too. We're going back next summer. Same spot. Some stories aren't meant to scare us. They're meant to help us let go. Gary went into the Tetons hoping to build a memory with his son. What he didn't expect was to receive one in return. Something quiet, unexpected, and healing. Maybe the places we love remember us too. Gary's story really hit home for me. It reminded me of fishing with my dad in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, not far from where this story happened. I was around the same age as Gary's son. I can still feel how proud my dad was when I reeled in a cutthroat trout. I can still see the water shimmering on the Snake River. My dad would pass away when I was 13. At the time, I didn't realize how important those quiet memories were. But now I know they're the ones that stick with you. If you've experienced something strange, meaningful, or just plain hard to explain in the great outdoors, we'd love to hear your story. You can share it at oddnationalpark.com. And to help us keep this little campfire burning, visit the support page on the site. Every bit helps us continue exploring where the natural meets the supernatural. Thanks for listening. I'm James, and this has been Odd National Park.